My Friday started off great. The drive to work took 15 minutes less than usual. Everyone on the subway was friendly, the sun was shining, and two different bosses praised my work on several projects, and I had a delicious lunch in pleasant company. I expected my day to be even better. That evening, I had 2 skybox tickets, which were given to me, to a Washington Nationals game. I had a date scheduled for the game with a pretty woman I had dated 3 times, and she seemed to really like me. I was anticipating getting into her panties after the game. Everything was going smoothly until I headed to the subway to go to the game, changing my shirt, tie, and sports jacket for a national team jersey. I arranged to meet my girlfriend at the main entrance since she worked near the stadium. My cell phone rang. It was my girlfriend's secretary who said she would be working late and couldn't make it. She didn't have the decency to call herself? And how could she not realize that $300 tickets were not something to pass up, especially since the game was against the reigning World Series champions and all the tickets were sold out? I was more upset than I've ever been, but not upset enough to miss the game. As I was walking down the subway escalator in a daze, wondering what I was going to do with my second ticket, I was caught off guard by a girl riding ahead of me. She was wearing an impeccably tailored business suit, a narrow skirt with a slit in the back, and 10-centimeter heels. I could see that she had nice thighs, a firm ass, and amazing legs, at least her calves, the back of her knees, and the part of her thighs that was visible through the slit. I followed her through the turnstile onto the platform. She was moving in the same direction as me. I couldn't resist gawking at her. While we waited for the train, I stealthily walked around her, trying to get a good look at her from every angle. She looked to be about 45, short red hair, pointed nose, perfect makeup, frilly blouse, and an extraordinary posture. I don't like red, dyed hair, short haircuts, makeup, or pointy noses, but she did well, especially with her typical hips, ass, and legs. And then she caught my gaze. She had piercing, big, beautiful blue eyes. I looked away, trying to appear nonchalant, but I was embarrassed as hell. Just then, the train came up, and I was saved by the bell. The train was pretty crowded. There were no seats. I made my way to the middle of the car and grabbed the handrail. I wasn't paying much attention to what was going on around me, concentrating on what I was going to do with the second ticket, when I noticed someone else grabbing the same handrail. When I looked up, it was her. She was holding onto the handrail with one hand, and in the other she was holding the Nationals pocket calendar she was looking at. There were no rings on her fingers. Without thinking, I blurted out, "Are you a Nationals fan?" She looked at me, smiled, and said, "Yes, I'm trying to find a game that fits my schedule. Are you going tonight?" I told her I was, showed her 2 skybox tickets, and told her how excited I was. She replied that she was jealous. We had a nice chat about this and that. She exuded personality and was as effervescent as she was sexy. I'm in my early 30s, tall, fit, and good-looking, but certainly not a stud. This woman didn't look my type, but I was optimistic and thought to myself, hey, stranger things have happened. Suddenly, I was struck by lightning. Eureka! I pulled out my cell phone, telling her I had it on vibrate, and pretended to answer the phone and talk to my already canceled companion. I ended the ghost call with an unhappy look on my face. What was wrong? My girlfriend just canceled a date, said she's going to be working late. I hate going to games alone. Wow, that's a shame. She must have a terrible job or be really stupid to turn down skybox seats when the Nationals play the reigning champion. Look, I hate to ask you this, but do you have plans tonight? The game starts at 7:05 and has to be over by 10 o'clock. You're asking me to go with you? With a lump in my throat the size of a baseball, I said hoarsely, "Yes, I know it's—" Before I could finish, "I'd love to. My name is Cheryl, by the way," she said with a wide smile on her face and extended her hand. "I'm Chet," I replied, taking her hand. It was strong yet soft, like everything else about her. I literally floated out of the subway and into the ballpark, chatting with her along the way. The skybox was full of dignitaries in business suits, probably lobbyists and corporate executives, and maybe 1 or 2 congressmen. Despite living in Washington, D.C., I didn't recognize a single politician. I was a little surprised that at least 5 or 6 guys said hello to Cheryl, calling her by name, and she said the names of 2 or 3 of them in return. I didn't want to pry, so I didn't bother asking how she knew them. Anyway, I was absolutely thrilled with how good the seats were and the drinks and food offered. You didn't have to stand in line for hot dogs or beer here. Everything you wanted came to you. Cheryl and I seemed to really hit it off. She was as much fun to joke with and exchange phrases with as any woman I had ever interacted with in my life. She knew surprisingly little about baseball, considering she was a Nationals fan, but she knew a lot about human nature. Of particular importance to her was whether a player was good or lucky when he took the field, or a fan during the many promotions between innings and catching balls. With a twinkle in her eye, she must have asked me each time what was better, being good or lucky on dozens of different occasions. I didn't mind. Hell, I looked forward to it, because every time she asked, she would put her hand on my shoulder or leg and look at me with her stunning eyes. I noticed that some of the guys she said hello to seemed to stare at us, but she paid no attention to them, and neither did I. The Nationals won in the bottom of the 9th inning with a home run. The crowd was ecstatic. Everyone was high-fiving each other and hugging each other. It was especially wonderful when Cheryl hugged me, bouncing in place, showing me that she had lots of breasts under that frilly blouse. When our hug ended, I had to cover my bump. As we excitedly left the baseball park with the rest of the cheering crowd, Cheryl grabbed my hand and said, "There's no way I can get a cab, and I only live about 1 kilometer from here. Could you walk me home? Does the Pope shit in the woods? Is the bear Catholic?" It was all I could do to suppress my delight when I, probably too hastily, said, "Of course I'll see him off." I quickly recovered and was playing as well as anyone else in the game when I saw a street vendor selling slippers with the Nationals logo on them. "You must have been walking around in those heels all day. They're really pretty, but I bet they're ruining your feet. Let me buy you a practical souvenir," I said, leading her over to the salesman and buying a pair of slippers. I insisted on paying for them, saying, "You've turned what could have turned into trouble into a great time. I insist you let me buy them for you." Cheryl glowed like a Christmas tree as she put her hand on my shoulder to take off her high-heeled shoes and put on her slippers. I carried her shoes as we walked through the noise of the crowd to her apartment, and she held my left hand, squeezing my bicep from time to time and making me glad I was lifting weights regularly. As we turned toward a luxury apartment complex with a guarded gate and doorman, my heart jumped when she said, "You've been so kind. The least I can do is offer you a drink. It's only 10:15. Hell, I didn't care what time it was. I hope I didn't blurt it out. Sure, I'd love one. Too fast or too enthusiastic. When we got to Cheryl's abode, I was simply amazed. Furniture and artwork better than I've ever seen. "Wow, I see you have decor as stylish as yourself," I blurted out, chagrined that I had acted like I was starstruck, but pleased with the wide smile my comment brought to Cheryl's face. And then something happened that only happens in movies or to rock stars, but certainly not in real life to regular guys like me. "Actually, Chet, I lured you to my place under false pretenses. I don't really want to buy you a drink. I had such a good time tonight, and I'm so horny. I'd really like to have sex." I was so proud of myself for not passing out. For a few seconds, I was speechless and probably gulping air with my mouth like a bass in a boat. But I was more ready than I'd ever been in my life. And in an instant, we were already licking each other's tonsils, pawing at each other like a pair of monkeys. As I removed her clothes, I was amazed at how trim her body was for a 40-plus-year-old. As I tried to carefully remove her clothes, she tugged mine off like an animal. She didn't actually rip anything except my boxers, but that was only due to the durability of the material, not because she was careful. When we stripped naked, she literally dragged me into her bedroom and we finished in a 69 position, faster than it takes a fastball to hit a catcher's hand. As soon as she came to her senses, a smug smirk appeared on her face. It was clear that there was nothing left in the tank by the end of this sex of both of us, but we didn't care. Finally, I have no idea how long it lasted, I rolled her over onto her side and kissed her on the lips while we cooed and fell asleep. When we woke up the next morning, we both looked like the cat that ate the canary. I was as content as I had ever been in my life, and when she told me I was doing amazing, I was more flattered than I had ever been in my life. There are no words to describe what a phenomenal sex machine she was. After we chatted for a few minutes, she looked at the clock hanging nearby and said, "I'll make you breakfast, but if you don't mind, I'd like to turn on the TV for a few minutes first. An acquaintance of mine has a press conference in 2 or 3 minutes." "I don't mind." "Who is it?" "You'll see." Cheryl turned on the TV in her bedroom, switched to CNN, and sure enough, in 2 minutes there was a press conference by a senator from his home state talking about disaster relief in an area hit hard by a tornado. "That braggart is my husband." "What the hell? You're married? And to a senator?" "Yes, and you see that blonde in the background? I just found out yesterday morning that he screwed her." A million different thoughts raced through my head as I sat on the edge of the bed, stunned. After another minute or so of television chatter, Cheryl clicked the remote, turning off the screen, and turned to me. "Tell me, Chet, is one of us, or both of us, lucky to have met? Cell phones don't work on the subway. I've never seen a Nationals game live or on TV in my life. When I saw a guy in a Nationals jersey staring at me, I took off my rings and put them in my purse. I also happen to have a schedule in my purse that was on the back of the pocket calendar I use. And those guys in the skybox are lobbyists who know my husband well, and some even play golf with him, and I hope they will report to him." While I was still sitting in a slight daze, not knowing what to say, Cheryl French kissed me. "Maybe you can answer my lucky or unlucky question after you take me again, stud," she murmured. I never answered the question of whether I was good or lucky.